My guest today is Ibram X. Kendi. Ibram is currently at American University, and he will soon be moving here to Boston University, where he will be setting up and leading his Center for Anti-Racism Research. And I'm going to ask him what he thinks the future of race and racism might look like in a post-COVID world.
What I'm hoping is that Americans and American policymakers look at the main reasons why Black and even Latinx and even Native people were disproportionately infected or even killed as a result of COVID-19. And I know in the case of Black people, many people originally thought that it was because Black people were not taking the virus seriously. Then it started zeroing in on this idea that Black people had pre-existing conditions at higher rates than other groups. But some recent studies have found that indeed access to high quality healthcare, access to medical insurance, the air and water quality of one's neighborhood and employment status were actually greater predictors of Black infection and death rates than even pre-existing conditions. And so what I'm hoping is that the world after COVID is a world where certain communities are not more likely to have poisoned water or poisoned air.
What lessons do you think this moment of COVID might teach us about racism or about anti-racism?
What I'm hoping is that people realize that it's no longer adequate, it's no longer enough for people to just say they're not racist or their country is not racist. For people to look very clearly at the COVID disparities, for people to even look at the disparities in police violence, and to realize there's only really two causes. Either there's a problem with people, there's a problem with certain groups being better or worse than others, and that's why you have these disparities, or it's the result of policy, of bad policy. And I'm hoping that people will be more anti-racist and be more focused on changing policy and even arresting racist policy rather than trying to change or even arrest or even sort of segregate or even deport people of color.
And what policy changes do you think are the most important?
I think Americans before COVID were more likely to support Medicare for all than not, and I think that's probably going to grow. Experiencing this pandemic, recognizing that you had so many Americans who had to choose between their job and their health, which is a choice no human being, should have to make during a pandemic. It's also critically important for us to take those extremely vulnerable areas that are what's called trauma deserts and eliminate that problem. So every American, it doesn't matter whether they live in a city or a rural area or a suburban area, should have access to high quality healthcare.
Given the long history of this issue in this country, why do you think we do not learn? What keeps us from learning?
One of the, if not the most critical racist ideas is this idea that racism isn't a problem. Like, that's what racist ideas say to people. That, let's say, Black people are the problem, not racist policies. And so if you have racist ideas and you believe that all these people of color are either criminals, invaders, or terrorists, and you don't actually realize that it's actually policies that are really harming these communities, then you're not even going to be able to see the problem of racism, let alone learn more about it. And you'll just continue this cycle of blaming the victims, and those victims will continue to be harmed. And the more they're harmed, the more you blame them. And so obviously we should ensure that every American really starts to overcome their denial, starts to recognize that we have disparities and inequities and injustices in this country because of our policies, because of our past policies that we have the capacity to change. There's nothing wrong with any racial group of people, and there's everything wrong with our policies.
At this point, in this moment, Do you have hope that we can learn?
It seems as if we are in a seminal moment in which people are learning, or at least striving to learn. But I'm hoping that this extends out, that this continues, that Americans continue to learn, and then they continue to learn not just about Black life and about anti-Black racism, but about other forms of racism, about the many different groups of people that are ostracized and oppressed in this country because of the color of their skin, or because how they worship, or because of their biological makeup. And so I think it's critically important for this to be the beginning, not a moment.